St. Lucia, this is Open Mic, and we now back to the fourth and final segment of our program. We have fairly well exhausted what we came to discuss today, and we only hope that this administration will reflect on what has been said and try to address it, because it's a very serious problem for St. Lucia and St. Lucians living both abroad and here in St. Lucia. Now, another area which bothers me tremendously is the fact that every time I drive down to the Latok area, I'm very, very much concerned about the 60 or 70 truck chassis that are lined up on the side of the road, when we know that somebody can drive into those things and get their head cut off. I've said on more than one occasion that the government owns 200 acres of land in Calisac, 200 acres of land. What will it take to backfill 5 acres, have it properly fenced off, move all those chassis out of the area, move the containers? There are 1,800 empty containers adorning our docks here, when we could fix up those docks properly for additional cruise ships. Because as I said before, when a cruise ship stays outside, we don't get the $5 or $6 head tax. And that's revenue just not within our control, when it should really be. So I want to know that I have done a test drive on more than one occasion. It takes 8 minutes for a truck to go from the docks to Calisac. And the most containers that come in at any one time is about 40 containers. That means within 3 hours, there'll be no time lost for any ship. The containers could go straight down to Calisac and free up the docks for parking facilities. When I look at the condition of our town, the former Prince Alfred Basin, right in the heart of Castries, what does it have? Some containers and some forklifts. How can that be right? At the back of the fire service, there was a Bailey Bridge there which fell down, and we have Bailey Bridges in stock in St. Lucia. Why can't they put a Bailey Bridge there, fix that road so all the traffic can just move? I don't know when St. Lucians have last gone to the back by the old hospital road, by the cemetery, and see the number of cars parked all about the place, when in fact you can put a 2 or 3 story car park right in the Prince Albert Basin, and that would automatically help Castries and help the Blue Coral building, which is losing approximately $130,000 a month. And I'm reading the Voice newspaper or the Star today, and I'm seeing where Digicel, I think, is leaving their premises in Castries. So that means people are getting out because of poor parking facilities. Frank, can you give a little insight on that?
You hit on something that I drive by every day, those chassis on the roadside. And my thought process has been exactly yours. It's going to happen one day. It's just an accident waiting to happen, and we'd have some horrendous accident. But unfortunately, this seems to be something ingrained in I don't want to say it, but it seems to be ingrained in our culture, that we react to things instead of dealing with it up front. And in all the cases you mentioned, this is what happens. Look at the incidence of rape in St. Lucia, which is something I've been speaking about for years. I've written about it, and up to about 3 months just before Christmas, I spoke about it again. We speak about it for a very short time. People flood the talk shows with calls, etc., expressing outrage. A couple of weeks passes and it just dies down, and each time it gets worse than the time before, and nothing is done. It's almost as if the persons who are supposed to do something just don't do it. And I am personally outraged by it, because last week the Minister of Justice was on television speaking about something that has not happened in St. Lucia ever, which was election violence, when we have the very next day a young girl is raped while going about her normal work. And it is not that it has not been happening. The figures over the years are astounding, and I don't think people understand this. And in my mind, that is not an easy situation to solve. There are things that are being done in other countries of the world that can be done even with the limited resources we have. But yet still, we have this sort of reaction mode. And you know the other thing that's surprising? You're not getting the extent of outrage that some government minister should have when these things are happening, to use La Corbinier's phrase, on his watch. We should be appalled at that. In a similar way, an accident is going to happen with these chassis on the road, and then somebody's going to come up with all sorts of explanations why. This thing just pervades our society, this reactionary mode. We need to get out of it. Otherwise, we'll keep on just moving from one step. We'll be firefighting. And this thing, it's going into the economy also. We don't seem to have a plan for dealing with things. It's always a firefight. We're not going to get anywhere. It's just going to get progressively worse.
You know, you're so right with what you said. Remember the last heavy rains we had, some guy saved some woman who went down in some... Now, I've said time and time again, Fred, and you probably remember that, because Prince Alfred Basin was once the area where all the water drained during St. Lucia. When that was filled, then our flooding started in a very serious way. If you go down to Queens Lane, all the way down, there's a drain going down there. All the top of the culverts are broken and sank in the drain. I mean, really, I said, why don't they make a drain twice or three times the size, have it deep enough, wide enough, and well maintained, and let the water go down? Because if you go by the old Banana Association, you'll see all the stagnant water there, because all the water from Bridge Street and so eventually has to go somewhere. And you know, businesses are losing money. Look at, for instance, the new Shariki building they put up off of the customs. He has raised the sidewalk at least 1.5 feet because of water. Now, how can that be right? You know what I mean? And these are the areas that, as you said there, they need to be proactive, not reactive. And as you said, the same thing with the rape cases that have been going on. We've been flooding for years and years, and then it floods, and then back to normal, and nothing being done.
And the thing about the rapes, it impacts on productivity in the country.
Definitely.
Because females are not going to feel comfortable if they've got to work late in their offices. They don't feel comfortable going about their normal businesses that happen outside of normal work hours between, say, 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Women who live alone are petrified. They probably can't sleep at nights. They got to go to work the next day. There are knock-on effects into the economy, and we have to understand that. But nothing, from where I sit, nothing is being done. And the mere fact it happens again means nothing is going to be done.
I think accountability is the operative word here. If government thinks in 5-year tranches, the public, regrettably, have a very, very short attention time span, possibly 24 hours. This has to change, but accountability in government is something that apparently has gone by the board. When was the last minister fired, dismissed, shunted aside for doing a bad job? I can't remember. This happens regularly in properly run democracies. If a minister does a bad job, he's moved. But no minister has ever moved here, regardless of how bad a job he does. And Frank mentioned the Minister for Security, talking about electoral violence, and so much is going around us that needs to be done. I won't comment on the police force and the morale drop there. I mean, that's talk for another program. But as far as the roads are concerned, Michael, you know that when the Millennium Highway was built, there was I think a 5-acre site developed and set aside already. It may be backfilled, I don't know, in cul-de-sac for the tractors and trailers. And they were supposed to go there, but nothing was done and no action was taken.
But Frank, tell me something. Just revisiting what you said about the rape situation. The people who are doing it here, where does it begin? Is it education? How does one first try to stop it? I mean, for instance, okay, I think unemployment is part of the problem, okay? Education is the second part of it. Because when you have guys on the block sitting down and taking their puff, they do all kind of crazy things. I've said repeatedly that both the French and the British are quite willing to give a couple of guys to come down to start vocational schools, you know? And I think if you could just start off, whether you start off with 20 guys and let it grow. A man who can do a little electrical work, a little plumbing work, a little carpentry, he doesn't have to be an excellent one, but he can be a helper, would get something. But if a fella comes with 2 left hands, he can't do anything. Well, what is your take on that?
These are societal problems. They're not new. It started years ago. But the thing is, when it started, we didn't shut the door then. So we haven't built up all the structures that will take care of situations like that. For example, the boys' training school is basically a training ground, if you will, for graduation to Borderley. We have no a home for girls at risk, for example. And they've been talk about this since the days when Mrs. Rock was in government, and to this day we still don't have it. They are insufficient. The social departments are insufficiently staffed. We have inadequate counselors in schools. This whole society, the societal structure needs to be vamped up, if you will, so that people can deal with these kind of situations. But the thing is, when we are in economic downturns, instead of those things being strengthened, because in the end you go into the realm of unemployment, people go into unemployment, the antisocial behavior begins, these things are usually cut. But in our case, they were never built at all, and that's why we're reaping the whirlwind today. I want to mention it. A lot of the youngsters we have going into borderline now, they started off 8, 9 years old with deviant behavior. They don't become criminals when they're 21, 22. They started a long time ago. We don't have things along the way to catch them. So it's actually going to take a while to sort that problem out.
Yes.
But it has to be done at all levels right now. Everybody has to play a role. Principally, it has to be led by the people who are put there to do that.
Yeah.
They have to come up with programs. They have to come up with structures. Even at bordering now, there are no real rehabilitation programs for the prisoners. So they go in there, they spend a while there, they'll learn some new things, and they come back out released upon society, and a couple of weeks, they go back in. We have serious problems societally.
Now, as you're talking of Bordelais, and you have, as you know, some 300 people there who are on remand, okay? Don't you think the guys who are in there for petty, what you call theft or whatever it is, instead of leaving them there, if you put an electronic bracelet on them and have them to report to the police station 2 to 3 times a week, wouldn't that be better than leaving them there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, and there's a cost, you know what I mean? I mean, how can you do a thing like that? And as someone said that some of those guys, when they spend 6 months, a year there, they become trained now to do other things which they did not, they were not accustomed of doing.
And a lot of them are youngsters,
Yeah.
and we end up where we are.
Yes.
If I can just comment on the idea of tagging people or putting bracelets on them, which is very common abroad.
Yeah.
That system would work as well as the efficiency of our police force, so anybody monitoring is available.
Yeah.
If our police force can't do the control of these, then it's a waste. It's a waste of time, and it's almost as bad as doing due diligence for the new investors under the CIP.
Yeah. Well, St. Lucia, this is Open Mic, and we have now just come to the final segment of our post program. And I want to thank you so much for listening. Until next Sunday, we'll be back here. Thank you so much.